Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Tonight, our guest is Mike Lollo, kidney donor and president of the National Kidney Donation Organization and expert on the National Kidney Registry. Retired Detective Mike Lollo started his police career in July of 1999. After graduating from the police academy, he was assigned to the 110th Precinct in Queens. Soon after, Michael was recruited to work at the police academy, at first as an instructor and then with the research and developmental unit. In 2006, Detective Lollo went to work for the Real-Time Crime Center located at One Police Plaza. From there, in 2008, Detective Lollo began his work with the Intelligence Bureau, initially in the Sensitive Data Unit, and then to the Threat Assessment and Protection Unit, from where he retired in August 28, 2020. I saw an NYPD internet posting about a police officer, Tommy Alexander, from the NYPD Harbor Unit. Tommy was in need of a kidney. At that time, Detective Lollo inquired to donate to Tommy, but his attempts were unsuccessful. A few months later, in September of 2018, Detective Lollo saw a New York Post story about Mark Weiner. Mark had a billboard in Times Square, you probably saw that on television, that was donated in order to help with a search for the kidney he desperately needed. Michael contacted Mark's transplant center and began his journey to donate a kidney. Unfortunately, it was discovered that Mark and Detective Lollo were not a match. However, while waiting for his results, Michael learned about becoming an altruistic, non-directed donor, which would create a potential donor chain. He indicated to Well Cornell that he wanted to donate to a stranger through the National Kidney Registry. And on December 19, 2018, Detective Lollo did in fact become a non-directed donor, and his kidney was successfully transplanted to his intended recipient, a stranger at Walter Reed Medical Center. Detective Lollo's act of kindness created a two-person kidney chain. Michael later discovered that his kidney went to a 59-year-old woman living in Pennsylvania. While her husband was not a match for her, he continued the chain and donated his kidney to another. Michael has been fortunate enough to get to meet his recipient, Ruth, and her husband, Paul, at a Mets game in July of 2019. They remain close and have even spent Thanksgiving together. Michael now continues to promote organ donation awareness through an organization called the National Kidney Donation Organization, or the NKDO. Until August of 2021, Michael volunteered with the NKDO since his donation in 2018. After his retirement from the NYPD in August of 2020, Michael took a job with Altruist Consulting Group and was assigned as a director of security for the Baldwin School District. Then in June of 2021, Michael got a call from Ned Brooks, the founder and CEO of NKDO, asking if he would come on as president of NKDO. And as of August 2nd, 2021, Michael has helped Ned Brooks and Lisa Emmert, the executive director, and Terry Thede, Thede, project manager of the NKDO, to move in a direction that has, and I mean undoubtedly, changed the transplant world. Please give a warm welcome to our friend, the great Michael Lollo is with us tonight. Mike, how are you?
Holy mackerel, Jim, that is an introduction. I'm taking you wherever I go. That is amazing. You actually made me sound somewhat good.
Good. Did I state everything correctly in the introduction?
I think you just missed my when I was born, but other than that, yeah, you got everything else in there. Yep.
Great. Tell us a little bit about where you grew up, your education, a little bit about your employment history.
Sure. So I grew up in Bayside, Queens, pretty much my entire life. I went to Bayside High School. I have a degree in hospitality management, which I got from New York City Tech. If anybody knows Brooklyn, it's 300 J Street. Then I went to Florida to try and complete my bachelor's degree. Unfortunately, the sun and the job that I had with Marriott prevented me from doing that. I wasn't always the best of students. It wasn't really my thing. So I got more into, working with the Marriott Hotel. I was a manager with them for 7 years. Then I moved back to New York, and I was working for Marriott at the time. But I always had a desire to be a police officer. My uncle retired as a captain from the police department, and I was just always enamored and fascinated. I would have joined sooner, but I remember when I told my uncle that I wasn't going to go to college, that I was going to, sign up to be the police department. He told me that he would find my application and tear it up. So I had to go to college. He goes, you have to at least get an associate's degree, which is what I did. And then when I came back, though, I still had that desire. And, in 1999, July 7th of 99, I joined the NYPD.
Okay. Talk to us about the beginnings of your police career from the start in July 1999 through your assignment in Queens and working as an instructor with the police academy and then later in research and development. What was going on then?
Sure. So I started at the 110 precinct in Elmhurst, Queens, which was awesome because I lived at home at the time, and it was about an 11-minute car ride, 12-minute car ride from my house with my parents to the 110. And I worked there for probably about from 99 to I think it was about 3 or 4 years or so. And then I had an opportunity to go teach at the police academy. And I said, well, what do I know? I mean, I've only been on the job for 3 or 4 years, but the opportunity came before me, and they said, you can't pass it up. It's a way to get off patrol and into something. So I loved teaching. You get certified to be a state an instructor, state certified to be an instructor. I got to teach in the police academy, a lot of recruits. It was awesome. I like talking to people, and now I had a captive audience of 34 or 40 people that had no choice but to listen to me. And then there was an opportunity to go into a unit called research and development, which helped with various research products. So if the NYPD was looking to get a new piece of equipment, we would go out and search the United States for other police agencies that might have been using this equipment and write up a report and bring that back. It was an awesome time. And then I got the opportunity to go work at the the police academy. And I left the police academy and I went to the Real-Time Crime Center, which I thought was tremendous. The Real-Time Crime Center, it was a juvenile crime desk. And it was one of the first times in my career that I felt that the police department did something right for the members of the police department. And what they did was they created almost like a help desk for people who had interactions with juveniles, because juveniles are very difficult because it depends on the age, depends on the crime. Do you send them back with their parent? Do you send them to, to juvie? And they created this help desk where we could, guide the police officers or detectives on what to, what to do with these juveniles. But just to go back, because I skipped something. Of course, major in my career, which was September 11th. I was working at Queens at the time, and that day was it's totally imprinted in my mind. I remember I took my grandfather to go vote. I dropped him off at home, and I came back and turned on the TV, and I saw the towers were on fire, and that just like everybody else, just thought it was a fire. And saw the second plane while I was watching TV live, hit the tower, and that's when I tried calling, my partner at the time. I couldn't get in touch with him. Called the precinct. I was on vacation that week, but I went in, and him and I, I'll never forget. They sent us to a hospital in Queens because they assumed that all these injured people would have to go to all these hospitals outside of Manhattan. And him and I were standing there, literally standing there. We got dropped off and we're waiting and waiting. And unfortunately, as everybody knows, there were no bodies to bring to the hospitals in the outside boroughs. That's when, we called the precinct and said, we're not doing anything here. And we ended up driving to the towers after they fell that evening, and it was very surreal. It was like walking. I thought like walking through like a movie set. Everything was just dark, and it was just the ash and the soot, was all over. And then subsequently spent like the next couple of weeks there doing, perimeter security and things of that nature. But then I went over to the real-time crime center, and once I got there, one of my bosses moved to Intel, the Intelligence Bureau, and he's like, hey, you should come here. Like, this is a really good place. It's a really good place to work. And I said, put in my application, and they accepted me. I started out in the sensitive data unit, which is the unit. One of the main components is it houses all of the identities of the confidential informants throughout the city. So it's a biometric room. You're not supposed to bring your cell phone in there, because they don't want any of this stuff obviously leaking out. And then there's a component that is involved with deconfliction. So if someone's trying to execute a warrant on a residence, they'll call us to make sure there's not another unit looking at that same residence. So we don't have, separate agencies, whether it's Nassau, Suffolk, postal police, whatever the case is, both maybe executing a warrant on the same time. But I went over to the Intelligence Bureau just to speed up my police career. I'm sure I'm boring people, but I ended up going from sensitive data to the threat assessment and protection unit. And that's where I spent the last 10, 11 years of my career. And it was awesome. And every visiting dignitary that comes to the city gets funneled to that unit. So the Secret Service, State Department, they send requests to that unit, and then we build a detail around it. So, if it's the, Prime Minister or President of Togo, that might be a low threat. So you get, one unmarked car and 2 detectives. Or it could be the President of the United States of America, and that's, a 40-car motorcade with, 2,500, police officers. Anyone from that's watching this, if they ever got held up for the United Nations General Assembly in September, that was my office that caused all that, was, one of the causes of all of that traffic. And I stayed there until I retired in August 28th of 2020.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about your kidney donation experience. First, in April of 2018 with police officer Tommy Harper. What went on then?
Yeah, it was Tommy Alexander. So I was just sitting at my desk, and there was an intranet posting of a police officer. They said he's in need of a kidney. If anyone's looking to donate, call this number. So I called my wife as the first phone call, and I said, I don't know anything about this kidney donation thing, but they're looking for people to get tested. I didn't even know what that meant. And she's like, yeah, absolutely. She's like, send me the number. She says, I'll call as well. So I called the number. It was the wrong number. I ended up finding what the right phone number was. I called them and left a message. Nobody called me back. I called a third time, and I finally got someone at the hospital. I gave them some basic information that they asked over the phone, and that was all. I never heard back from them, so I assumed that Tommy got his kidney. But sadly, fast forward, I'm probably going to jump around back and forth, but it's important. He was just at a really bad transplant center, and I wasn't the only one. Multiple people who tried to donate to Tommy or on his behalf, the transplant center just dropped the ball and never called anyone back. And all of us thought he got a kidney because no one ever called us back. So if you fast forward to after my donation, I know we'll get back to that, but this is very important for those who are listening. We were able to get Tommy transferred out of that terrible transplant center, and we moved him over to NYU Langone, which is part of the National Kidney Registry, and we're going to talk more about that later. But why that's important is because we reran his video, or we redid a video for him, letting people know in the police department that he never got a kidney. He's still on dialysis. And a sergeant named William Gaspari, who saw the original video, the same one that I did, the same flyer that I saw, he tried to call the hospital. He assumed that Tommy got a kidney. Not until he saw this reposting and of this updated video that myself and Detective Lava and Sergeant Colleen Walsh put together, he said, oh my gosh, he goes, I thought he got a kidney. He went and he got tested. He wasn't a match, and he donated as a standard voucher holder for Tommy Alexander. I know we're going to talk about that later. So he donated to a stranger, gave Tommy a voucher. And just to close his story, I'm happy to say he's still with the NYPD with a brand new kidney. and he's doing fantastic. So, but the moral of the story is, the transplant center dropped the ball majorly because it took, a year or two after that before Tommy ended up getting his donation.
Okay. Let's talk about September of 2018 and Mark Warner. Well, what went on there?
Sure. So, I attempted to donate to Tommy. I didn't hear anything back. That's it. Put it out of my mind. I want to preface this with, I don't know anyone that ever donated. I don't know anyone that ever received a kidney. I didn't know anyone at the time that was on dialysis. To be quite frank, I don't even know if I knew what kidneys did. I knew I had them. I kind of knew where they were, but I really just didn't. Kidneys weren't really in my purview. So everyone asks a non-directed donor, why did you donate? And it's the most difficult question to answer. But what I could tell you and tell everyone that's listening, it's an aha moment. And for me, I attempted to donate the first time, was unsuccessful, and I thought that was it. But when I saw that billboard, which was only about 4 months later, I just said to myself, wow, I've been alive for 45 years. I barely ever heard the word kidney. And now in 4 months, I hear about someone asking for, a living donor. And I said, I want to look more into this. And, as you stated in the opening, I was waiting for the test results to come back because they send you some initial labs to get some blood work done. And I learned that you could be a non-directed donor. I learned, you don't. I always thought if you could even donate, it would be, to your mother or your father or your kid or something like that, or your uncle. I didn't know that you could just give a kidney away, to a stranger. That there was another match out there. So you're right. When they called me to tell me the sad news that I wasn't a match for Mark Weiner, I asked that, if I can continue on as a non-directed donor, which of course, Weill Cornell was my transplant center, New York Presbyterian Weill Cornell, and they were very pleased with that.
Okay. Tell us what happened in December 19th, 2018. I understand that was a big day.
Yeah, so I ended up going through the entire process to be a kidney donor, which I have to say, Weill Cornell is amazing when it comes to the process. They have it extremely streamlined. It's very user friendly. I dare I say they make it very easy for you to donate a kidney. They have the testing down to 1 day. I went there for 1 full day of testing, 8 o'clock in the morning to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And they were able to, I was able to work around my schedule. I ended up getting the results back that I was cleared to donate. And I got a donation date originally of December 4th. And I said, fantastic. I went to the night before because you had to get there at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. So we stayed at a hotel, my wife and I, the night before. 9:30 in the evening, we're at a local a deli trying to pick up some supplies so my wife could have some stuff in the hotel room. And I get a phone call from my transplant coordinator that my recipient is sick and she cannot receive the kidney on the next day. I said, wow. Well, so first I was like, that just was like shocking news. On a side note, Weill Cornell makes you take a cleanse, sort of like a laxative if you're going for a colonoscopy. I already started that process. So I was like, oh my gosh, I started this process already. But I asked my coordinator, well, what does that mean? She goes, well, listen, if you have to donate tomorrow, if that's like the date, we have a backup. They always have a backup in case something fails, like in this case with the recipient and the donor must donate. They take someone typically off of their wait list that's in the hospital. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't go on because I just knew, without knowing her, that her family knew that there was a match. Her husband knew that there was a match. Her daughter knew that there was a match. Her parents or siblings, her friends, they assumed she was getting this kidney. And now because of something out of her control, she gets, the flu or she gets a cold and she's not able to go to surgery. I said, I want to wait. So that's what I did. And she ended up becoming, symptom-free, fever-free. And December 19th was the date that I went into Weill Cornell with 2 kidneys and a couple of days later left with only 1.
Okay. You later discovered that the kidney went to a 59-year-old woman in Pennsylvania whose husband was not a match. Talk to us a little bit about that, the two-person
Sure.
chain and the husband donating. What went on there?
Yeah, that was, I learned later on, it was really a leap of faith by her husband, because the way it was originally structured, we were all going to be donating on the same day. So he ended up donating his kidney to a stranger, even though I didn't yet donate and give my kidney to his wife. So I could have backed out, right? I mean, something could have happened. I could have, and he already donated his kidney, and then his wife, they would have, of course, the National Kidney Registry would have handled that, and she would have been moved to the top of the list, and they would have looked for someone else. But her husband, Paul, what a great guy. Number one, for coming forward. He got tested to be a match for Ruth. He wasn't a match for Ruth, but the amazing, work that the National Kidney Registry does. It doesn't matter, whether you're a match or not. Someone, the simplest form, I know we'll probably talk about a little bit more, but someone donates a kidney like Paul did into the pool, and then Ruth, the wife, gets my kidney out of the pool, so to speak. So it was a two-person chain. So his kidney went to a stranger, so that Ruth would be able to get my kidney.
Okay. And I understand that you've met Ruth and Paul at a Mets game in July of 2019. Can you tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about that?
Sure. I kind of got, you mentioned earlier Ned Brooks, and almost immediately, because Ned came to visit me actually in the hospital. He was he was really my mentor, my kidney guy, I call him. He told me about what the process was like. I was able to text him and keep in touch with him throughout the process. He never didn't know anything about me. Lives in Connecticut, took the ride in and came to visit me in the hospital, and said, listen, when you get out of here, I want you volunteering for my organization. Basically, we speak to kidney donors who are thinking about going through the process. I said, absolutely, because it was so valuable to me, his insight and his input, that I wanted to do that for someone else. So I didn't have any social media whatsoever because of my job and because of my wife's job. I was on nothing, zero, no Facebook. No, I had an email address. That's all I had. But they told me, if you're going to advocate, you got to get a Facebook account. So I didn't even create my original Facebook account. Someone started it for me, and then gave me what the password was, and I started using it. So in January, I get a friend request from a woman, and I said, I click on the picture because I want to see who this person is and why are they friending me? And they didn't say anything. They just sent a friend request. So I scroll through her page, and I see that she has one of the articles that the New York Post did on me, and she said something, I'm paraphrasing, like, to my second hero, Detective Mike Lollo, who donated his kidney to me, and to my first hero, my husband Paul, who donated on my behalf. So I said to my wife, I said, I think this is my recipient. And she's like, well, isn't this the moment that you've been waiting for? I'm like, yeah. She says, well, what are you going to do? So I sent her a Facebook message. I have a photo of it. It's kind of comical. So the very first thing I sent Ruth was, hey, I think you have my left kidney. Send. That's it. That's all I sent her. And she sent back this, very long, wonderful, Facebook Messenger note. And then we exchanged phone numbers. And in the exchange, she told me that she was a Mets fan. So I'm constantly thinking about ways that we could promote living kidney donation. I'm trying to think about ways to get the media, to do a story about living kidney donation. So I said, you know what? I said, the Mets are a good organization. Sorry for all you Yankee fans out there, but the Mets they're a great organization, very philanthropic. So I asked Ruth if she was okay with it. I said, listen, I think I'm going to write the Mets. Wouldn't it be cool if we met at Shea, almost call it Shea Stadium. That shows my age. Citi Field. Wouldn't it be cool if we met on the field? She's like, oh, if you could that'd be great. Whatever, I'll help advocate any way that I can. So I wrote to the Mets. I just wrote a letter and I sent it off to the Mets, and they responded, and they were extremely receptive to it. And it was a huge, great advocacy day for living kidney donation. And one of the most, to me, besides meeting Ruth, of course, and Paul, which was tremendous, I invited everyone that had a part in the process. So of course my wife was there, representing my family. My surgeon, Dr. Anthony Watkins, was there. My living donor coordinator, Marion Charlton, who was at Cornell at the time, but now she's over at Hackensack, was there. Mark Weiner was there with his wife. It was his billboard that really sort of inspired me to donate. I had Joe Sinecor, who's from the National Kidney Registry, who actually matched Ruth and I and facilitated the transplant. So there's an awesome picture of all of us together. And I think it's, according to Marion, it's probably one of the rare times that type of group was put together, and photographed. So, but I just wanted them all to see what they do. I wanted my surgeon to see what it meant for her to have that kidney, and my coordinator to see that. I wanted someone from the NKR to see this is what they do. This is you are saving lives every day. I donated my kidney. Yeah, okay, great. I helped out Ruth, but these people are doing this day in and day out, and hundreds and hundreds. And National Kidney Registry last year did, I think it was 1,019 transplants. That the NKR represented 20% of all living donor transplants in the United States of America.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy.
So it's my understanding that you're still close with Ruth and Paul. You've actually had Thanksgiving with them?
I did. She she wanted to thank myself and my family, and also to meet my children. So she invited us. She lives in Ambridge, Pennsylvania, and she invited us there for Thanksgiving, and we went that November. My children got to go there. I think USA Today, Humankind, actually, Lisa Emmett helped out with that, picked up the story. They sent a TV crew there, and they got to film us having Thanksgiving dinner, and then they got to put that out on the World Wide Web. It was great. I got to meet her mother and her brother and her daughter. It was and her sister flew in from California, and it's just I'm truly lucky. Some donors, they don't want to meet their recipient. Some donors want to meet their recipient, but they never get the opportunity to. I like to say that I have the Cinderella, kidney donation story, because, knock on wood, I didn't really have any complications. My recovery was rather quick. I got to meet my recipient and her family, and we still stay in constant contact, Paul, Ruth, and myself.
Okay. It's my understanding that you're continuing to work through the National Kidney Donation Organization. Can you tell us a little bit about your experiences with them?
Sure. So before Ned called me and asked me to come out as president, I volunteered. Basically, we just would try and advocate when we could. We helped kidney patients that are in need of a donor, and we went from donor to donor, which was Ned's original organization, and we kind of rebranded ourselves because we started gaining momentum. And Ned had a great connection with a lot of different transplant centers throughout the United States, and I really felt myself and a couple other the members felt that we really were a national organization, and we were looking to grow. So we rebranded, we changed the name to the National Kidney Donation Organization. And then June of 21, I guess it was, Ned called me out of the blue. I remember I was at the Boulderman High School, and I got a phone call, and Ned said, "Listen, I think we're trying to take NKDO to the next level. We're looking for someone who likes to talk," which, as you could tell, I like to talk. Someone who's passionate about living kidney donation, and we'd like you to be president of the organization. And I said, really? Yeah, is that like a thing? He's like, yeah. He goes, it's a thing. He goes, this is for real. So I called my wife, and she's like, of course. So I get about 60 seconds later, I called Ned back, and I said, absolutely. And I told the school district what my intentions were. Of course, they were sorry to see me go because I was only there for one school year. But they said, how could we be upset because you're going to do something that you're very passionate about?
Okay. Talk to us a little bit about your duties and responsibilities as president of the NKDO.
Sure.
What do you do? What goes on there?
That's what I said to Ned. I'm like, Ned, what's the job description? I'm not kidding. I said that to him. What, like, he's like, he goes, how can you quantify what it is that we do? He goes, we'll figure it out as we go along. But what I love about NKDO is it's not just me, it's not just Ned, it's not just Lisa, it's not just Terry. The four of us are in constant communication every day. Terry lives in Illinois. Ned lives in Connecticut. Lisa lives in Florida. I live here in New York. We're constantly Zooming, and it's a total cohesiveness. We are, constantly working together. But to answer your question, I don't think any one of us necessarily does any one particular thing. We really do work as a great team. But one of the main components of NKDO is the donor mentoring program, which didn't exist before. So while Cornell, Marion had this like little list of people that she knew weren't crazy and that were living kidney donors. And if someone wanted to speak to a donor, she would say, "Oh, I have this guy Michael, or I have this guy Ned. If you'd like to speak to them." So it's kind of like ad hoc. And I just want to go back a second because it ties into here. So Mark Weiner, when he had his original billboard in 2018, got about 1,800 clicks into the transplant center. It crashed the transplant center system. They couldn't handle the volume. At the time, Mark was looking for a match, and I'm sure we hopefully have time to cover that. We don't like to say the M word. We don't like to use the match word because if you're looking for a kidney, that's probably the worst thing to do is to say I'm type A or O or B. I need a kidney, because right away someone looks at that and they go, "Oh, he's O, I'm B. Never mind. I'm not even going to try." And then we'll talk in a minute about why that's important. So Mark got no kidney donors, nothing. He got nothing out of it except that he says the gratification out of knowing that Ruth got a kidney because of his billboard. So I want to fast forward because this is kind of the birth of Donor Connect. My 2-year anniversary, again, I'm still working for the police department, and I want to create awareness, right? How am I going to do this? How are we going to do this? I said to Mark, "Can you get that billboard donated again?" He's like, I don't know. That's a heavy ask, but I'll see if the organization will do it one more time. Why? I go, my 2-year anniversary is coming up, and I want to go back to Times Square with you, and we want to relaunch your campaign. But this time, we're going to do something different. We're not looking for a match. We're also not sending a single donor to your transplant center. We're going to create a website for you, or we used his website, but we're going to create a link that funnels all the donors to NKDO, every single one of them. We're going to vet all the donors. We're going to control all the donors. We're going to educate all the donors. Why? Because you don't have to be a match. You could live in California and you can help Mark. You could live in Colorado and you can help Mark with the NKR's voucher program. You could donate on Mark's behalf, right? So Mark was a little reluctant at first, but he believed in me, and he says, if this is what you say I need to do, I'm going to do it. We launched the billboard again. Mark and I freeze our butts off in Times Square in December during COVID, December of 20, what was that, last December, I guess it was, right? Yeah. So 21. So freeze our butts off. We only got 189 people that came forward. So I was kind of disappointed. But the thing was, we had a team of volunteers, donor mentors, ready to contact all of those donors. And we did. The list got whittled down for one reason or another. 12 people made it to the final day of testing, if that's how it's the easiest way to refer to it. Of the 12, 5 people were cleared to donate. And this amazing woman, Hillary, came forward and donated on Mark's behalf and gave Mark a voucher. And what's so important about this is 2 things. First, I'll jump to the other 4 people were told that Mark got a donor to donate on his behalf. Those 4 people are all continuing on to donate to strangers, which is unbelievable. Unbelievable, because they were properly educated. They were fully informed. Hillary goes and gives Mark a voucher. And this is a classic case as to why the voucher program is so powerful and so important. Hillary was actually a match for Mark, but she needed to donate now. Mark, unfortunately, has a small medical issue, which is preventing him from getting his kidney now. So when we educated Hillary about the voucher program, she's like, absolutely. So my kidney's going to go to a stranger, but I get to give Mark the Willy Wonka golden ticket for a kidney. And we're like, yes, that's exactly how it works. So now it doesn't, of course, we want Mark to get better and to get his kidney sooner rather than later. But here's the deal. It doesn't matter if it takes Mark a year, 2 years, 3 years to get ready for that transplant. That voucher is there. So that's the power of having someone donate now and today versus having your donor wait. Because if Hillary wanted to wait, if let's say she wanted to wait, let's say the hospital talked her into waiting, right? Because they wanted to have this direct match. Anything could happen to Hillary. God forbid something tragic, that donor is lost. Maybe she wants to donate to somebody else. Maybe she gets sick and she can't donate any longer. So if you have a viable donor, a healthy donor, why not have them donate now in advance and give you that voucher? So if you're not ready yet, you can get the kidney at a later date. I think I went way off of your question, but I think it's important. That point is very important. So the good news is Tommy got his kidney because someone came forward in the voucher program and used the voucher program, and they donated. Sergeant Gaspari donated to a stranger so Tommy could to get his kidney. And then the other person I tried to help, Mark, is very, very close because he's got that voucher sitting there in the drawer. Now he just needs to get that medical condition taken care of, and he's going to get matched, and he'll get that kidney. And I can't wait for that day.
Oh, you keep us posted.
I will, for sure.
And by the way, everybody, if you look at the comments in this broadcast, a lot of the things that we're talking about tonight, there are links to the news articles and stories that we're speaking about. So if you want to learn more about this, more about the NKDO, more about the National Kidney Registry, it's all in those links and you can check it out for yourself. Okay. All right. Let's talk a little bit about some of the protections that the NKDO provides for donors and recipients. Talk to us a little bit about paired match information and kidney donor swap, particularly in more complicated cases.
Sure. So just to clarify, the protections are provided by the National Kidney Registry. That's who, and that program is called Donor Shield, which has a whole suite of protections for donors. I'll just take a minute to highlight some of them. You know, what the National Kidney Registry has done is single-handedly removed the majority of disincentives for people to donate. So when I mentor people, one of the number one things that comes up is I can't take time off of work. I'm not going to get paid. So the National Kidney Registry has this lost wage reimbursement. So, they reimburse up to $1,500 a week for 6 weeks. So it removes that disincentive for people. The other one is travel and lodging. They reimburse up to $3,000 for travel and lodging. In my case, I got to benefit from that because I stayed at a hotel the night before. My wife stayed in that hotel for 2 subsequent nights. That's really was my only expense because I live on Long Island and the hospital was in Manhattan. I submitted the bill to the hospital. I think it was 2 weeks later, I got a check in the mail for the full amount, because it was up to $3,000, and I think it was like $900 or something like that, for a New York hospital. One of the other huge benefits to Donor Shield is if you donate as a donor within the NKR, you get, to me, this is number one, you get kidney prioritization. So what does that mean? I have the best kidney insurance that you can ever have. If, God forbid, something happened to this kidney, my right kidney, I'm pointing to the wrong side. If something happened to my right side and my kidney was damaged, I go right to the top of the list within the NKR. So just for people to understand what that means is how Mark needed to find someone as we call it a partner, right? He needed a partner to get access to those donors. Tommy Alexander needed a partner to get access to the donors within the NKR. I don't need a partner. I have a kidney prioritization. I got that sort of like the voucher, the golden ticket sitting there, and I could, walk back into Weill Cornell and say, I need that kidney because this one's failing, and I go to the top of the list. They offer donation. They offer legal support if for some reason your insurance company decides to want to try and drop you, or your life insurance company is refusing to to insure you or doesn't want to give you insurance. They help out with that. They just started something which is phenomenal. Home blood draws. So if you live more than 40 miles away from a Quest lab, there's some like blood work that you need to do in the beginning, some labs in the beginning. They'll send a phlebotomist to your house. This is phenomenal. This is what the government should be doing. This is what the federal government and each state should be doing, is to remove disincentives for people to donate. There are good people who are watching this. There are good people all over the United States that would love to help another human, but they can't because they can't afford it. They can't take the time off of work. They can't spend the money to do the travel, and that is terrible because the numbers they fluctuate. From 13 to 20. I hear the people die a day. I know this, Jim.
Sure.
13 to 20 people die every single day waiting. So the National Kidney Registry, like I said, did a phenomenal job with removing disincentives. So currently, they have a few programs. The standard voucher program, which is the voucher program that I mentioned, is tremendous. That is a game changer, right? Years ago, you had to find an you were looking for a match. Now, like I explained before, it's not necessary. So people do campaigns on Facebook. They utilize, the NKR has a microsite program. So what does that mean? That means if you're not too savvy with computers, you don't know how to make your own website, they do it for free. The transplant centers that participate in the microsite program will give you this unique link, unique URL. The NKR has microsite coaches. So like I'm a mentor, and there's NKDO people who are mentors for people going through the process as a kidney donor. They have coaches on the other end who are helping patients and helping guide them on what to put on the microsite, how to promote your microsite. So they really, my picture fell. They just have such a robust, suite of protections and a suite of tools that people who are in need of a kidney and for people who are willing to donate the kidney to use that. And there are other organizations out there. There's NALDAC, which is the national organization, but it's means tested on the recipient. So what does that mean? If the recipient makes over a certain dollar amount, then that donor can't utilize NALDAC for wage and lost travel reimbursement. So I don't know. I think every hospital, I think the federal government should be subsidizing the donor shield protection for every single hospital in the United States of America. Why not? Why how much is a human life worth? There's almost 100,000 people, 98,000 or so, in need of a kidney. There are 200 million legal aged, if you will, people who potentially could be kidney donors. If less than half of 1% of those people come forward to be tested, we could literally wipe out the list. So the answer is in front of us. The answer is in front of us. And I think the government should be doing more to remove disincentives.
Okay. Talk to us about donor center involvement. You guys are hooked up a little bit with centers too. How does that work?
Sure. So I guess to go back, so we ended up working with the National Kidney Registry, and we created this official program, through the National Kidney Registry. It's a program called Donor Connect that the NKR offers, and NKDO provides that service to the transplant centers for free. So we currently have 18 transplant centers throughout the United States that utilize this program. And we also mentor everyone that comes in through the National Kidney Registries to big websites, the kidneyregistry.org and the Donor Care Network website. So I think we're up to 6,000 or 7,000 people that we've made contact with or attempted to make contact with. What's really interesting is that the NKR is great about keeping statistics. And we've been doing this for the NKR solely, not the transplant centers, since last February. The transplant centers, I think we started in September, October, so we don't have data on them yet. But what's really cool about this program is we more than doubled the conversion rate of getting someone who as a donor candidate through donation. So what does that mean? I'll give it to you in numbers. The National Kidney Registry's conversion rate of the people who come through their website has traditionally been less than 1%. Less than 1%. I think it's like 0.4, 0.04, something like that. Now they've been studying the people who don't take a mentor versus the people who do take a mentor, and we are up to like 1.02%. So we are more than doubling. So what we're doing is we now are going to the transplant centers and offering this service totally free of charge. The NKR doesn't charge the transplant centers for this. And we are now in 18 transplant centers throughout the United States, mentoring people every day. We have a pool of about 55 to 60 donor mentors within the NKDO that are at the ready to speak to people.
Okay, and your transplant centers include the transplant center where I was transplanted, IU Health down in Indianapolis. Dr. Goggins did my transplant down there. Just so the folks understand, it's all over the United States. It's not just on the East Coast and in New York.
Oh no, yeah, all over. We just got. We're in Hawaii, is a brand new transplant center. So it's. I know Hawaii is in the United States, but it's definitely in a totally different time zone. So West Coast, it doesn't matter. Central time. The transplant centers are spread out through all the United States.
You guys make it very easy for people to connect with the NKDO. Can you talk to us about the Joining the Team membership program?
Sure. So if you go onto our website, which you can probably see above my head here somewhere, nkdo.org, there's a membership button. And what that does is that'll keep you informed on everything that we're doing. We have newsletters that go out. We have periodic Facebook Live interviews. Ned just did one. Ned Brooks, our CEO, just did one with Garrett Hill, the CEO of NKR, not that long ago. That was a really great thing. And we keep you informed on things that are going on, whether it's once in a while. We don't bother you too much, and we have not asked since we started this anybody for money. We're up to, I think, 1,600 people, 1,600 members of NKDO as far as our mailing list goes, and we have about, like I said, 60 or so mentors. And then we have a core group of 30 or 40 of us that kind of keep the operation going, I guess.
Okay. Talk to us a little bit about some of the political things that the NKDO is involved in. Sure. I saw something that went on in Georgia, also something that went on recently in New York. Can you talk to us about those things a little bit?
Sure, it's fantastic. So one of the things that I've had the pleasure of doing is getting involved a little bit in politics. It's not really my thing. NKDO doesn't. It's not a core function of what we do, but of course we are in support of any state or anything that could help promote and or remove disincentives for living kidney donation. So I have a strange connection with Senator Albers because I had dealings with him when I worked for the police department long before I donated my kidney. And I ended up retiring. And I read a story, actually, I think it was my father-in-law who sent me the story. And I saw that he donated his kidney. And I said, wow, to his son. I said, this got to be the same guy. So I sent him an email and he's like, is this the same Detective Mike Lollo that works, that helped me out, for his Patriot flight? He's got something called the Patriot flight. Prior to COVID, he would take first responders from Georgia, fly them here for the day to New York, bring them to the September, the 9/11 memorial, and then fly them back. So he told me that he was working on this bill, and he goes, "Listen, I would love for you to come testify before the Senate and the legislature if you're willing to." I said, "Absolutely." And he said, having the president of an organization come and testify, he goes, "I think would be powerful. Plus, you're a kidney donor to boot." So I went there. I got to testify in front of the Georgia State Senate. Got called back again to testify in front of the Georgia State Legislature, and I'm proud to say he has probably arguably one of the most robust bills for living organ donations, not just kidney, it's liver, bone marrow. It covers all of that. The bill was signed by the governor already, and hopefully we'll be going back because they want to do a big presentation and the whole pomp and circumstance thing, I think, over at Emory Hospital. So he's going to have me come back there again. But here in New York, I know you just mentioned a gentleman named Josh Morrison has been working on this bill for like over 6 years, a Living Donor Support Act. And this is really interesting because this would be the first state, New York will be the first state, if this passes, that will actually reimburse dollar for dollar up to a certain dollar amount the costs to someone that's a living kidney donor. And now people may say, well, what do you mean costs? Like what would it cost? The medical expenses are all covered. Recipient's insurance pays all medical costs, co-pays. There's no money that should be laid out of pocket. But if someone, like I talked about, is traveling, someone's traveling from one state to New York because they want to donate here, or they need to donate directly, they need to stay in a hotel. The average cost here in New York that's been figured out, it's $4,400 is what the average donor has to pay out of pocket to save a life. Think about that. Someone's coming forward to give their kidney to maybe a stranger or maybe someone that they know, and it costs them money. It's the only person in the entire equation that doesn't receive anything out of it, right? The recipient gets a kidney, changes their life, maybe even saves it. The hospitals, they get compensated, the doctors, the nurses, the whole hospital medical system. The state, even the government, saves money because that person is no longer on dialysis. But the kidney donor has to pay $4,000 or $4,400 to do that. It doesn't make any sense. So, Josh is like, this is crazy. So he got this bill going, been trying for 6 years, and this is the closest it's ever been. And we are really hopeful that this bill will pass. We went there, we lobbied in Albany. It's the first time I ever got to lobby in person. It was phenomenal. All the senators and the assembly people that we met were very well received. And it passed the Senate the next day. The very next day, it passed the Senate unanimously. So we're hearing wonderful things that it's going to come out of the Ways and Means. I'm not good with politics, so if I say this the wrong way, I apologize. It's going to go out of the Ways and Means, and I guess it goes to the Assembly to pass the Assembly, and then it gets to Governor Hochul. So I doubt Governor Hochul is going to be seeing this broadcast of ours. But if she does, I strongly encourage her. The cost of that bill to the state of New York is about $954,000. It's estimated that it will save at least 100 New Yorkers' lives because 500 New Yorkers die a year waiting for a kidney. 900. I told in one of the meetings, I don't think I was well received, but I said, I don't really care how much it costs. I don't care if I told you this was going to cost $10 billion. How much is a life worth, right, Jim? I mean, it's, it's 954,000. What do we? I mean, I'm sure the state spends money on a lot of other things that aren't the equivalent of saving a life. So I'm really, really hopeful, and I thank everybody that took the time to meet with us, and I think we're going to get it done.
Okay, let's talk about the educational programs through the NKDO. I saw that you guys did an interview with Dr. Montgomery. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
You know what? That's probably the one question I really can't answer. I don't recall. That might have been pre-me, so I will have to pass on that one. Although I do know Dr. Montgomery, and he is a tremendous name in the in the transplant world, and he's doing phenomenal things over at NYU, and he runs an amazing transplant center. But I don't have a specific knowledge of the interview. I don't know if Ned did it. I'm not really sure.
Well, if you could get Dr. Montgomery and myself hooked up, we'll get him on the show and we'll get that clarified.
I will
He's the
try to
guy
do
that's
that.
doing all the pig transplants.
Yeah, I know. That's it's tremendous. It's I think we're a little bit far away from, because I got when that was put into the news, I got texts and everybody sending me the articles about, look at this, you're out of business. We don't need the NKDO anymore because they got the pig transplants. I said, whoa, slow it down. It's promising. Listen, I think I could speak on behalf of NKDO that we're in support of people getting transplanted. And whether it's deceased organ donations, we're working very closely with Live On New York. Lenia Chan's the new CEO of Live On New York, and he is a huge partner with NKDO. Probably one of the first CEOs of an OPO that is so receptive to living organ donation. And him and I had a conversation, and we're both on the same page. We don't really care where the organs come from, if it's a deceased organ, if it's a living organ. If they're able to perfect this, with the pigs, then that's great. The object is to get these people off the wait list. These people, as you know, Jim, dialysis is not a cure. I dare I say it's a death sentence. You're literally just waiting. You cannot live forever on dialysis because when I talk to Mark, he's still on dialysis, and it's just so painful because your other organs start to deteriorate. So you're ending up with additional problems. The medications that you have to take, and it's not an answer. It's a good, it keeps the person alive, right? Until they can get a deceased organ or they can get a living organ donor. But a deceased organ here in New York, it's 7 to 10 years is the wait. You find a living donor. I think I'm probably jumping to one of your questions. You find a living donor right now within the NKR. If you're at an NKR center, and there's 100 of them, throughout the United States, if you're not a difficult person to match, meaning if you're not an O is a hard person to match. If you're not highly sensitized, it's 1.6 months.
Wow, that's so fast comparatively. I mean,
to my knowledge,
I waited 4 years.
4 years, wow.
Waited 4 years.
They've got it down to 1.6 months if you're not a difficult match. As long as you're not highly sensitized and your CPRA is low and you're not an O. So all those other categories, 1.6. If you're an O, it could be 6 months to a year, but still, that's better than waiting 7 years for deceased organ, 10 years for deceased organ.
Average time in my home state's 5 years.
Wow.
So we've been talking about the National Kidney Registry and the National Kidney Donor Organization. Can you tell us how they're related, how they work together? Are there certain people that get referred to one organization versus the other? How exactly does all that work?
So so we provide the Donor Connect service to the NKR. The NKR compensates the NKDO for that service, so it can be provided to people for free and to transplant centers to be able to provide that to the ones that have chosen to use it for free. We have a button on our page that says I'm considering kidney donation, and that will bring you into the NKR intake page, which is how you would be able to get connected to a donor mentor. You're not required to speak to a donor mentor. It's optional. If you choose to opt out, you can check the box and you can opt out, and nobody will contact you. Right now, about 60% of the people that come through want to speak to someone. One of the other great things, the National Kidney Foundation, the NKF, the National Kidney Foundation, they've also partnered up with the NKR. And if you go on their website and you click on considering to be a kidney donor, that also takes people into the NKR's intake. And the NKF has a team of donor mentors that that mentor anybody that comes through their site.
Okay. One of the things that we haven't talked about yet that is part of the benefit of going with the NKDO and the NKR is the donor satisfaction survey. In other words, you guys are always constantly doing a little checkup on yourselves to see how you're doing. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. One of the things that the NKR has done is have these surveys that donors, potential donors, and then if they become donors, they could fill out throughout the process. So what's phenomenal about that is that my background is all customer service, and one of the things that the transplant centers that are utilizing our service that they like is that if there's an issue that's consistent with several of the people going through the process at their center, we have the ability to bring it up to that transplant center and it can be rectified and fixed so other people aren't having that same experience. The surveys, in my opinion, are potentially a game changer. I know people, because this happened once before when I was in a meeting with medical professionals, they don't like to think of donors and even patients as customers, but we are. And, we want to be heard, and we want our issues that come up to be followed up on, and for change to be made if things aren't, happening the way that they're supposed to. NKDO is doing an amazing job. I call us now like the boots on the ground. So now that we have all these donor mentors out there and we have connections with all of these transplant centers and we're mentoring people all over the United States, we're uncovering, small roadblocks, if you will, or barriers that people are facing at the transplant centers. But now we have the ability, because the transplant centers, they recognize us as the largest living kidney donor advocacy group. We like to say in the world, but definitely I think it's in the world, definitely in the United States. So when we call them up, we can say, hey, listen, this is what we're hearing. You may want to look into this. You may want to change the process, and they're actually making change. So I think that's another one of the great assets to NKDO, and again, kudos to NKR for instituting this survey function, because I think it's a great idea.
Okay. One of the other things we haven't talked about yet is the concept of kidneys for life, better matches, fewer graft failures, more opportunity for reduced immunosuppressant medications,
right,
and epaulette matching. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
I wish I could call. Can I phone a friend?
Yeah. Why not?
If I could call Ned Brooks, because he's working on making this a lot easier to understand. So I will take the best stab at it that I can, because this is definitely not my area of expertise. But what it is this Kidney for Life program that the NKR has instituted is doing what you just said. They're looking to match people with zero or low epaulette mismatch. So what does that mean? They've found that by focusing on a donor whose kidney would be best suited for someone, they go into deep into the genetics, I guess, if you will, of this, and they could tell that there are certain things in there that if you, even though you're a match, even though you're a pretty good match, years down the road, that recipient's body could potentially reject that kidney because it's identifying something. So they're now able to identify this earlier on, so they can give that patient the best match. So they're looking for the best kidney that you could get is a zero epaulette mismatch or a low epaulette mismatch. If you go to medium or high, the chances of down the road a rejection are higher. But Ned is working on something to simplify the description, because it is very technical, and I'm just getting a grasp at it myself. But if anyone is interested, there are a couple of centers that are doing this, or a few centers that are doing this that are part of the NKR. Just go to kidneyforlife.com. If you just Google Kidney for Life, the website will come up. probably explains it a lot better than I did just now. I'm gonna have to brush up on it for the next time you invite me on. But yeah, Ned Brooks is an expert on it. And of course, the people over at NKR are very well versed in it.
Okay, well, it's from the way it's described in your website. They look at antigens
Correct.
and they compare epaulets to atoms that are in molecules. So they're looking at smaller components of the antigens and trying to find matches there, the best genetic match. And that's
Correct.
why people have less failures. That's why they need less immunosuppressant medications, because they're looking at a smaller subset
Correct.
of components inside of the antigens to try and get the right kidney to the right people. So that's why they call it Kidney for Life.
Whew, good thing I have you here, Uncle Jim, because you explained it a lot better than I did.
Okay. One last protection question. Let's talk about donation insurance, life and disability coverage that's offered through the NKR. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. So they offer a life insurance policy for 1 year, and something I just learned recently because I wasn't aware of this. The disability and life insurance component is activated from the minute you leave your house and start driving to the transplant center to go donate your kidney. So if you got, God forbid, into a car accident or anything like that, you're covered. But it's a great protection. I don't know of a single case where it was used, thank God. Because I want people to know that in order for you to be a living kidney donor or living liver donor or any living donor, you have to be in great health. You can just look at me, right? I'm the spitting image of health, minus a few muscles maybe. But you have to be in great health, or they will not allow you to donate. So thank goodness that protection is not and has not, to my knowledge, been used. But it's great to have there, because if, God forbid, something was to happen, on the way to the transplant center or within that first year, the person's family is protected. It's a $1 million life insurance policy.
Okay. We're getting near the end here, Mike, I promise.
That's okay. I could talk all day.
Talk to us about what's coming up in the future for yourself and for NKDO. What can you tell us that's happening soon?
Well, one of the things we were hoping to do, but unfortunately it got canceled, is we're trying to, it got canceled twice due to COVID, trying to have the first and largest, I guess, living donor conference. And we did do one virtually during COVID, but it's just not the same. And we did have one scheduled for in person around the same time that the NKR does their gala, which was typically sometime in June, I believe. But unfortunately, there's a spike in COVID cases and such in New York. So the NKR and the NKDO felt it would be best to cancel it, for the safety of everybody, and just wait to 2023. So for 2023, we definitely look forward to having that Living Donor Conference in person. One of the other great initiatives that we have started, and it's slowly gaining traction, is our partnership with OPOs. I think we have about, if you go on our website, I think there's like 5 or 6 now that we'll call it officially partnered with. And what does that mean? On their website, they have a Living Donor Now drop-down box, and someone could go there for some information. And they have our link, which comes back to our website. Of course, we encourage everybody. I think everybody should be an organ donor on their driver's license. So when they pass on, if they're able to donate their organs, they should. We're trying to, and we are forging a strong partnership with Live On New York. We went together to Albany. A representative, Scott Woll from Live On New York, was one of the groups that was up there. The NKF was up there. We're trying to strengthen our partnerships. It's like in this kidney world, everyone's doing their own thing, and I don't think enough of us, not for any reason or another, but we're just not all working together. And we all have the same common goal, is to reduce that wait list, get people transplanted, and get donors to donate in the most effective way, in a healthy way, with the most amount of protections. So I think our partnerships with organizations like NKF, like Live On New York, like these other OPOs are, are really going to help move the needle, I think, a little bit.
Okay. We talked before the broadcast about the Police Benevolent Association and someone that you're helping to try and find a kidney donor. Can you speak to that for just a minute?
Sure. There's back in December, we did a press conference. There's a police officer. Her name is Vadrian Alston. That's currently a member of the NYPD. At the time in December, she was not on dialysis, and sadly, since then, she now is on dialysis. She's still employed as a police officer. We did have some people come forward. There are some people who are going through the process to hopefully donate either to her directly, if not, hopefully on her behalf, with the standard voucher program with the NKR. But, as we was talking before the broadcast, something I want to make sure I mention is we tell all the patients, sometimes people get excited, they have a donor, the donor is going through the process, and they tell all the other people who are wanting to come forward or who have come forward, never mind, I got a donor. Don't worry about it. I got somebody. Absolutely not. You have a donor when that donor's kidney is inside of you and working and you're producing urine. That's when you have a donor, because anything can happen. They could, right before a donor donates their kidney, there's something called the cross match done, right? A final cross match. This was done previously, but they always do a final cross match. And I can't tell you how many times, for whatever reason, something changed and that final cross match fails. It doesn't pass. It's not good. That donor cannot donate for that person any longer. So I say, do not stop looking for a donor until you actually get that kidney. So we do have some people come forward for Vadrian. If you go on, it's kidneyforvadrian.org or even .com. I think we have both of those. If you're interested, you can go to NKDO, our website, if you're interested in being a living kidney donor as well.
Okay. Before we conclude the conversation for the evening, is there anything else that you would like to discuss? Was there anything I forgot to bring up?
My goodness, you let me ramble on for a long time. I think we covered a lot. I would just tell people to do their research. I would encourage anyone who saw this broadcast to share it. I ended up donating my kidney because I saw a newspaper article about a gentleman who had a billboard, and that story I hear time and time again. Someone saw something on Facebook. Ned knows for a fact that people have listened to his TED Talk. If you want to hear a phenomenal TED Talk on why would someone donate a kidney to a complete stranger, go on YouTube, just Google Ned Brooks, Brooks. He has like a 14 to 16 minute phenomenal TED Talk. And people have called him up and said, I went through the process. I donated my kidney because I saw your YouTube. So I'm hoping that people see this. I'm hoping that it piques their interest. Living kidney donation, although I think everybody can do it who's medically qualified and medically healthy, it may not necessarily be for everyone. I would just ask that you share the stories of people who do need kidneys, share those positive messages, because I think we need that, especially in this time now. We need more positive stories out there.
Okay. Mike, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on with us. What a great program. Covered a lot of ground, a lot of education. Gonna have to have you back sometime, Mike, so we can get an update.
I'm going to hold you to that, Uncle Jim. I'm going to hold you to that.
All right. Well, you do that. I'll be ready.
All right.
So you're free to go now, Mike. I'm going to close up and just wanted to say again, thank you so much. And thanks to the NKDO and the National Kidney Registry. And wow, what a great program this was tonight. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Uncle Jim. Have a good night.
You too, my friend. All right, everybody. That's our show for tonight. You take care. I will see you soon. Have a good evening. Ugh.